Hobby Quick Hits. Delivering that breaking hobby news directly to your earlobes. You want to know those hot drops from the card shop? We've got you covered. With your host, John Newman.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 132 of Hobby Quick Hits. Today's show is sort of inspired by something in my work life. I'm a teaching assistant at the high school level, and we are learning about the age of Enlightenment. And, back from the 17th and 18th centuries. You might say, are you crazy, John? How does that have to do with today's hobby? And that's what this episode is going to be about. I'm going to draw that parallel. I'll give the official definition of the age of Enlightenment during the segment where we tackle it, but in the Cliff Notes version, it's where people started questioning things that they've always just believed sort of blindly. They started to think about things more. Do research, experiments to try to get not what they wanted to believe, but the actual scientific correct answer. And, I hope we're coming to a point in the hobby where maybe we care a little bit more. Maybe there are repercussions from not doing things the right way, sort of that enlightenment period. But I'll save that for the main part of the show. But before we get to that, we're going to hear from our great sponsors, Mojo Breaks, do our Q&A, hobby news, and our new product release calendar. Don't go away.
MojoBreakShop.com is the best place to get your sealed wax products and brakes. They not only have the best selection, but the best prices. Whether it's a box or a whole case, they are your guys. They ship worldwide to your doorstep. Their reputation as one of the most trusted in the hobby goes unmatched. They are the 2021 Topps Rip Party Champion Breakers. From sports card to Pokemon cards, their selection can't be beat. They offer daily deals and pre-orders.
Hey guys, John Newman here. Mojo's prices are already great, but to save an additional 10% off anything in their store, use the code QUICKHITS. That's QUICKHITS. Check out the full service store that's open 7 days a week in Santa Clara, California, or the website at mojobreak.com.
Go ahead. Let's check out this week's hobby wax releases. Take it away, Owen.
Hey guys, it's Owen from the Sports Card Shop. Let's go over the weekly releases. On the 5th, we have 2021-22 Panini Mosaic Road to FIFA World Cup Soccer and 2022 Super Break Basketball Edition. That's it, guys. See you guys later.
Time for the segment where you ask me a question and I answer it here on the podcast.
All right, today's question comes by way of message from our website, shameless plug, sportscardnationpodcast.com. Get more active there and getting more messages through there. That's where this one comes from. It's a question for the Q&A segment, which we haven't done in a little bit. So glad to get a question on here. It says, it's from Micah, and he says, John, loved the show. I do listen to, obviously, more than one podcast, but I've noticed a couple of the ones in my rotation have either dropped off or not done any new podcasts. Please don't do that, and why do you think this may be occurring? Well, my first response to this question, Micah, is easy. It's a grind doing, content creation. A lot of work goes into it. I'm not trying to pat myself or any other content creators on the back, although I don't have a problem doing that because, there's, a show that you might hear, an episode that's 30 minutes, an hour, most likely took 2 to 3 hours to produce, depending on what type of show, YouTube, audio only, all those variables. And to do that, especially on weekly shows, that's that increases the rate of difficulty, right? It's more time consuming. Another reason, so that alone, I think, is why maybe you're seeing less frequency or shows not be able to do it anymore. I think the other reason is, two more reasons I'll give, again, according to my opinion anyway, is, with the pandemic sort of, lowering down or coming on the backside of that hill as people return to work and some sort of this new normalcy, right? People aren't as home as much and have a lot of extra free time and time to kill, so to speak. So I think, the time crunch, like I just talked about, but kind of what's going on in real time is affecting, content creation, production. And the last thing, and I don't think this is a major reason, so that's why I kind of talking about it last, is, the hobby with some of the prices resetting, market correction, it's not on fire like it once was. And, because it's not at that crescendo level, I think people's enthusiasm wanes a little bit along with that. One last note pertaining to this question, too. We just, completed summer, and what happens traditionally during the summer season, not just in the hobby, but just in general, right? More people outside, more people traveling to vacation spots, doing outdoor activities, sports, whether it's playing them or observing them or going to events, and less time watching YouTube, less time maybe downloading some programming. And so typically downloads, views, and stuff come down a little bit in summer, sort of par for the course. Now every episode is different. Even with this show, some episodes will be more, viewed or listened to than the week before in the summer itself. But, traditionally summer becomes that time where more people are outside doing things and less concerned with killing time. They don't have to kill time. They've got events planned.
Let's go round the hobbyverse and catch up on this week's hobby news.
MySlabs has a new partnership in place. It's with collectors and their vault. Let me read the statement from MySlabs themselves. MySlabs has entered into an exclusive escrow partnership with Collectors Vault, the official vault of PSA and Golden. Currently, all items listed on the MySlabs platform in excess of $60,000 will be required to go through an escrow process in which MySlabs will be handling funds and the Collectors Vault team will be handling logistics, storage, and ultimate fulfillment to the buyer via their Collectors Vault account. Once an item is delivered to their vault, account buyers will have access to all services provided by Collectors Vault. This collaboration is designed to offer a safer, more secure process for higher dollar transactions. There are no seller fees associated with this process. Soon, MySlab sellers will have the option to utilize this service for items with listing prices as low as $5,000. So here you heard that last line, that eventually this vault will be open to cards as low as $5,000 rather than the $60,000 it is right now. Another hobby robbery, Dateline, Anaheim, California. The GTS distribution warehouse there, 6 sports card cases, a 2017-18 Flawless Basketball, also a 2019-20 Flawless Basketball case, a 2021 National Treasures Basketball, and 2020 National Treasures Football. In addition, 2 other cases were taken for 6 cases total. They released photos of 2 trucks leaving the scene. One was a white color truck, the other a darker color truck. Any information, call the local authorities there in Anaheim, California. Other than that, no other additional details. But again, continuing the trend of robberies, burglaries, and thefts in the hobby. You know those Little League cards we always order for our kids as they play Little League baseball? Well, hold on to them. You never know what they could be worth. A Little League card from Facebook inventor, entrepreneur Mark Zuckerberg just recently sold for $105,000. That's right, $105,000. Signed by him back when he was that age, not his current signature. He gave it to a camp counselor who happened to keep that card, not knowing what the future young Mark Zuckerberg would become. And now he still has it. Well, now he doesn't have it. He sold it via auction on Comic Connect, and it went for $105,000. When asked what he was going to do with his newfound auction winnings of $105,000, he said, pay some bills and treat himself to a couple comic books he always wanted to own. So he's a comic book collector, so he will be buying some comic books with the sale of his Mark Zuckerberg Little League autograph card.
And now, our feature presentation.
All right, the title of the show is The Hobby Entering an Age of Enlightenment. And first things first, let's get the boring part out of the way. At least I hope it's the boring part out of the way, right? For those that may not know about the Age of Enlightenment, let's get the, original definition of what that really is. The Age of Enlightenment, or simply the Enlightenment, was an intellectual and philosophical movement that dominated Europe during the 17th and 18th centuries, and then spread globally through its influences and an effect. And what it was a range of ideas centered on the value of human happiness, the pursuit of knowledge obtained by reasons and evidence of the senses. As also occurred, the scientific revolution caused it as more philosophers and scientists started using real evidence to come up with real truths and real determination. And I'll stop there with all the 17th and 18th century stuff. But I used this comparison because I think similar stuff is starting just on the beginnings in the hobby, right? People are starting to realize things, take notice, be more aware, spread that word out there. I think it started with the pricing and analytical data, right? We've noticed trends. There's always been trends, but now we have more tools, right? Sort of like that scientific revolution, if you will allow. We have more tools that are getting more factual and accurate, information. Again, much like in the Age of Enlightenment. And more people taking notice, more people aware. We call it today, right? Woke, being woke. Well, that was the Age of Enlightenment in early 17th, 18th centuries. Well, I think it's starting to happen in the hobby too. Like I said, with some of the analytical tools, pricing structures, and whatnot. But, what happened was in those early 17th, 18th centuries is people started saying, once it was, proven evidentially what was really going on, people made decisions to increase their happiness. And I think that's what's going on in the hobby, or again, the beginnings of, right? As, prices have come down, as, things out in real world macroeconomics, right, are not great. We've seen the highest inflation across the board, not just in the United States, but other countries too. We all know, if you drive, about what the gas prices are starting to come down a little bit now. The gas prices, food prices, right? Portions get smaller, price goes up. And even if the portions don't get smaller, it's the stuff is still going up. Energy costs are rising, gas, water, heat, electric, I can tell you that firsthand. I'm here in New York, but I'm sure it's I just saw a news report. It's going on across the country, and when you pay more for things, you have less money, less discretionary income for hobby-like things. And I think, I've had people DM me, email me, and say, John, I'm still in the hobby. I'm just really trying to make smarter choices. Before, when I just had this discretionary income and prices were lower for a lot of the real world stuff, I didn't have to do as much homework. I could just kind of buy cards. I could buy into breaks. I could buy packs and rip cases. And now I have to be more careful. And I think the other thing we're seeing is more people, not that you like strife or malice, but we're seeing more people call out folks for doing things not the right way. We've seen that in breaking, right? A breaker does something, not moral, not right, downright criminal, and we see, word spread, get the word out there. This happened during this break. Now, it's still, some people probably say, hey, I'm just not going to do business with that establishment, but I think it's still a problem, is accountability still an issue in the hobby. I speak to the breaking. We've seen, seems like every week another breaker does, something unscrupulous. Sometimes we've seen the same breaker do it more than one time, and yet they still have enough business to stay in business. And, that's where that information sharing, that's where that enlightenment factor can come in to let people be aware of what's actual and factual going on. Products. We're seeing fanatics, sort of take over the hobby. Hasn't really came into full effect until that licensing actually goes into effect, which will be in the next 1 to 3 years. And, you have to make decisions on products that you want to buy, and the companies themselves have to decide what products, they want to continue. I say companies, it's mostly fanatics, but, we still have Leaf, Upper Deck. They have to determine what products, what brands they still want to, what lines they want to release to be cost effective. I think in Fanatics' case, they're going to release a lot of lines to make the money they need to be sustainable. But there's an inherent risk there, right? Too much, and maybe the hobby general public says we're not buying all the stuff, and they can lose money here. We gotta remember that. Grading, we've seen. I've talked about this ad nauseum. We see a new company. New companies every week, right? Some you never heard of, some you hear about, and then you never hear about them again. Many are defunct and on the side of the road, as I like to say, with the hood up and smoke billowing out, and they're kind of dead in the water. But there's no shortage of grading companies to get your cards encapsulated. But when you talk about viability, right? I want to put my card in there, and I want it to have the greatest secondary market value for whenever I sell it, tomorrow or 2 years from now, right? You have to make educated choices. And the new companies coming along have to do something that moves the meter. This is why we're better. We're doing this. The other companies haven't ever done this, and we are. And it's going to be a tough road to hope, but that's not stopping them from trying. Again, the manufacturers, it's like scales, right? What tips the scales? There's a point where they have to make smart business decisions, or they can lose money. We've seen some products recently. The companies won't advertise this, but I think we've seen a few products not be profitable. We've seen very rarely in the past, when everything was crescendo in, right? Topps Gallery is the only one that really came to mind that collected dust on the shelves. Now we're seeing shelves kind of full again, and I don't know if that's good or bad. I guess it depends who you talk to. But I tell you, when I walk into Walmart, again, I don't open a ton of the newer stuff, or definitely not like I once did, but I have options. The shelves are not bare as they once were during the height of the crescendo. LCSs have to make decisions. Those things are skyrocketing, and I love them. As a former LCS owner, I love my store. Sometimes my mind will go as I drive around and see empty storefronts to, that thought pops in my head. What do you think, John? Do a store again? Most likely not going to happen. But I will tell you, the little voice in my head is talking to me. It's just I'm not picking up the phone and answering the call. Unless the situation was absolutely sort of a no-brainer, can't lose type of deal. But LCSs have to make all sorts of choices to service their customers. And now, we know the Fanatics model is, direct to consumer. They're going to have a store division, I believe. They're going to have a breaking division. All the stuff you have to be determined, but I'm sure there are some stores and LCS owners really on pins and needles as to, are they going to be able to get product? How are they going to get it? How much are they going to be allocated? And these things are all, part of the process. They want to service their customers. They want to make money. They got bills to pay, One of the reasons, I'm going to be quite honest with you, one of the reasons I probably won't open a store again is I'm selling cards now, on multiple platforms, on multiple selling platforms, at shows, when I set up at shows. Do I want to open a store and have that monthly overhead? Most likely 4 figures. I'm sure a lot of existing LCSs are weighing all those options. Everyone, owning a store is fun. I can tell you that as someone who did it, but I almost did not, myself and my partner Angelo, as I talked about on this, on the podcast before, almost didn't have a second year. We had a dinner meeting, where we lost money that first year, because we had to buy a lot of stuff up front. A bunch of glass showcases, equipment, we had to open up accounts and phone line and all that stuff, insurance. And that first year was a losing proposition. And we had a dinner meeting, and we really sat down and pondered whether there'd be a year 2. There was, thankfully, and then we started to do pretty well. We lasted 6 more years, until I sold out my half and then did the show circuit. That's a story I've already told. But LCSs, and they, you hear an LCS, I saw him, he weighs packs, or he searches packs, or, they do this or they do that. And that get out there, right? And, that's where that accountability comes in, where we get enlightened by that information, and then you have to determine I'm going to, or I'm not going to do business with that LCS and that owner that allegedly or does do these, unscrupulous things. Content creation is not immune to enlightenment, right? I try on this show, and I don't think I do it. I never tell anyone what to buy. Buy this, buy that. And that's done intentionally. And I sometimes will get messages from folks. Hey, John, should I do this? Or how come, what do you think of this? And I might, depending on who it is, I'll answer that, or I'll just say, hey, listen, it's just my opinion. I don't know, take this advice with a grain of salt. But I don't like to go on live and say, hey, you should be buying this, you should be buying that. Do your own sort of research. I determined, when I was really more into modern and ultra modern and more into prospecting, those decisions were based on strictly performance, not because some investor guy on his channel told me these are the top 5 hottest players. I already knew who the hottest players were because I'm a sports fan, and I remain one to this day. Even I don't just follow teams I like, although I do follow them more so. I just follow the whole sport, and I know who's doing well and maybe who's not. And I used to, I based those buy-sell decisions really on performance, right? Because at the end of the day, performance is a good percentage of what determines, what a card or cards should be worth. Obviously, ultimately, what a card's worth is what someone's willing to pay for. And so as a content creator, I take that responsibility very seriously and being careful what I put out there, right? If I don't know for sure, I'll say I think, but I'm not positive. If I don't know, you'll hear me say I don't know. I can't comment on that. I know that's boring and mundane sometimes, but I'm being honest, and I hope people appreciate that sincerity and the responsibility I feel when I turn this mic on. And I know how many people are listening to the show, and it's quite a bit. And so I take that responsibility very seriously. I give my opinion. It doesn't mean I'm right? Opinions are really not right or wrong. That's why they're opinions. They're not facts. And so I'm careful with when I say a fact. And we've seen people come out and talk about Fanatics has acquired Panini already. I've talked about the rumor or the whisper, but it's not been confirmed by either party yet. So I'm real careful, on wording and the information that I talk about, because people are, out there fact checking. We got blowout forums detectives. We got social media blowing up like it never has prior. And the word is out there, right? The Enlightenment. People are getting informed, getting woke, as the kids say nowadays, and making decisions. What I'd like to see a little bit more of, personally and selfishly, is more accountability, right? How many times do we see, BBCE now, 2 times has made an egregious mistake. And we're human. I get mistakes happen, but we need to be, accountable for those mistakes, right? You make a bunch of mistakes at your employment, at your work, you may, and I hope it never happens, but you potentially may not have that job anymore, right? I'm in the teaching profession. If I go to school and do something that's, not kosher, not good, and bad, I may be on the outside looking in. And honestly, that's the way it really should be. But in the hobby, we've seen people have 3, 4, 5, 6 chances, sometimes unlimited chances. Their following or fan base is so that they can do it and not really be impacted by their behavior. So what I'd like to see is some of those bad behaviors have some repercussions. First off, let me say, I would hope the bad behaviors wouldn't happen in the first place. But if and when they do, I'd like to see the hobby, be enlightened and make those decisions based on what they're seeing and hearing and doing the research and finding out about. I think we're starting to see that. I think we're in the beginning phases of that. Some of it, frankly, stirred on by, money getting tighter in income wise. And, card shows, we're seeing a lot of card shows and events. And I've recently have heard people say, I went to the show. There wasn't as many people as there was the last time I went there last month or 2 months ago. And I think that's sort of an indicator. The hobby is alive and well. Do not take anything what I just said in the last, 13 minutes. The hobby's not dying. I think it's just changing. It's evolving. And we need to make decisions based on those changes. I've said, when I did my store back in the 90s, if I tried to replicate that today, it would fail. It almost failed then. Thankfully, it didn't. But it would definitely fail now, that blueprint, because it's a different hobby. We need to change and adapt and, be enlightened with where we are today. So that's my little soapbox, if you will, about, making educated decisions with the hobby. Have fun. At the end of the day, right, that's what it's got to be about, having fun and enjoying it. And if being, doing research and getting educated, I think that's part of the process. And then, accountability, holding folks, whatever hat they wear, content creator, breaker, LCS owner, card manufacturers, distributors, grading companies, holding those folks' feet to the fire and saying, listen, do the right thing or you will not get my business. And if enough of us do that, the good will win the day. That's a wrap for this week's Hobby Quick Hits episode. A little different, but hope you enjoyed it, and hope, whether the masses are doing it, I hope you're making educated decisions. I hope you're looking at the big picture of what's going on and not necessarily questioning everything, but questioning some things to make decisions. And again, it all comes down right to accountability, doing the right thing and holding people's feet to the fire and having repercussions when someone doesn't, which we really haven't seen in the hobby like we have seen in other areas. So we'll see you next week for another edition of Hobby Quick Hits, and we'll see you Friday for our 200th episode of Sports Card Nation. My guest is Jeff Owens. We're going to be giving away some prizes this week, so pay attention to social medias. 2 one-year subscriptions to Sports Collectors Digest, 3 free SGC grading subs, and some prizes from the podcast prize vault. So stay tuned for that. And I'll be making a special announcement on something I got upcoming on episode 200 as well. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Be well. We'll see you real soon.